Canal Digital has customers in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland. We are what we, a few years, would call a DTH or satellite TV distributor. Today, we consider ourselves more like a video entertainment provider for the Nordics. We are delivering this video entertainment on satellite, and also we have an online video platform providing in the range of 160 live channels and catch-up archive with all the bells and whistles. So what I'm here to talk about as an introduction to the panel discussion is that I think it's time that the broadcasters and distributors in the Nordics take a more collaborative approach to a lot of aspects of our value chain. We are on the business track, which means that it's mandatory that I will use some buzzwords with vague meanings. It's also mandatory that I will grossly oversimplify many of the challenges that you struggle with every day, because that looks easier on PowerPoint. And I need to have a disclaimer, and my disclaimer goes something like this. My head of operations a few years back said, "Henke, you guys in management, you're so lucky. When we do something wrong in operations, smoke comes pouring out, alarms go off, telephones start ringing, and you are yelling at us. And the customers are calling because the service doesn't work. When you guys in management mess up, what happens is that something shows up in PowerPoint with the wrong font. So I make my own slides. So in order to make sure that there is no management mess up here, it's only pictures. So for those of you who didn't participate in the binary code sessions earlier today, I'll just briefly run you through some of the core elements of a streaming value chain. First of all, it starts off with the live broadcast signal and the video on demand, which is the feed into the platform. So what we do digital transformation. It's digital to digital. I'll come a bit back to that. So the live broadcast signal is tapped off. It's modified for internet distribution. And then we take the VODs, which is like the stack of DVDs. We transform them into a format that can be distributed over internet. Next thing we do is cybersecurity, or some of you like to refer to it as digital rights management. Then we store this stuff so that our consumers can access it on demand. Then we distribute it over internet. And then at the end, it shows up at the devices of choice of a customer. And then recently we added one element. You can discuss whether or not it's customer friendly, but we're putting advertisement on top of it. So my point to show this, I will be addressing some areas within this value chain where I think the time is very much due for us to stop competing and working on this individually and just try to sort it out in a more collaborative, co-sourcing way. The airline industry have previously been through a similar journey, like these guys that were handling the luggage previously were employed by the airline. Today, not so much. The catering companies were owned by the airlines. Today, not so much. And this has happened without anybody has claimed that this is a problem for competition or that these airlines have an issue with actually differentiating their products, because this is happening way below what really is of the impact to the customers. So that in addition to, we like to think of ourselves as big. We're not. These are the guys out there who define the user expectations. And alone, none of us can actually compete with these guys. If we join forces, we can most likely come a lot closer to what they are achieving, and they're teaching our customers how things should be. So, looking at a few examples where I think it makes good sense to cooperate, starting with the transformation of the live video signal from the live broadcast to OTT distribution. So what is this transformation? The distribution that we do of a broadcast signal is in a 100% managed network. We have quality of service, we have full control over what's happening there. Nothing is going to interfere with the signal. On the internet, it's a jungle out there. You never know what's going to happen. So you need to be prepared for narrow roads, you need to be prepared for detours, you need to be prepared for bumps in the road, different speed limits, intersections, and you might even have moose. You know, it's a jungle out there. And in the early days of streaming, there might be very good reasons for us doing this all by ourselves individually. And we have started off with this. And who's doing this today? A few examples of who's doing this. Basically, everybody's doing it. I would guess that every live channel distributed in the Nordic is probably transcoded to adapt the bitrate 10 times, adding zero customer value compared to if it had been done once. You may claim that this is not all the money in the world. At least if you have 5 channels, we have 160, then it starts to be money. We would like to make it 200, then it starts to be even more money. Even though if money is not the target, if we do this together, we will be able to invest more in quality. We can assign our people to do other stuff that will provide real customer value and differentiations in our products. And finally, if nothing else, we will use 1/10 of the electricity that we currently use. So then, looking at another example, storage has been mentioned a few times earlier today. We are doing storage in several manners. One is what I refer to as storage for everybody. It's the weekly archive that we have. Basically, everything that goes on air is stored, chopped into the episodes and programs so that our users can access them, and all of the users can access them when they want to, within the given time frame. Then we have the more individual-based storage, where Gladys can have access to her favorite episode 7 of Say Yes to the Dress, like forever, and only for her. This is something that we also refer to as a network PVR. And to a greater or lesser extent, who is doing this today? No surprise. Everybody is doing it. Essentially, adding no real customer value compared to if this has been stored once for the benefit of all. It's a good thing for the people who sell storage, because they can sell 10 times more than they would sell if we got our act together. So then, third example is the way that we are currently integrating the broadcaster's play services into our own product offerings. So in Canal Digital, we have for a while, our customers have had access to the C More Play service, logging into actually C More as Canal Digital customers. We have a similar approach with Viaplay. I know that Riks-TV is working with TV2 Sumo. We are in discussions with many other providers of doing the same. the thing is that the way we have been working so far is that, first of all, the commercial guys negotiate the contract. Then we start to do the discussions on the technical implementation. That can take 3 months, that can take 6 months, that can take 9 months. And sometimes we don't even figure out how to do it, not because it's difficult, but we cannot agree on what is the right way of doing it. And the way we have been pursuing this so far, on a one-to-one basis, means that if this continues, in 2-3 years' time, it's going to look something like this. This means that the IT guys at the distributors and the broadcasters will probably not be able to do anything else but developing this and maintaining it. So, ideally, we should, as an industry, agree on how this should be done. The perfect solution would, of course, be that we had a standard API that everybody could integrate to. That's probably even oversimplifying it more than I would be allowed to do here today. But if we could agree on some standards, that would also take it a lot further. So if we could agree what is a user profile, how do we do login, what are the basic security requirements, then it would be a lot easier for this to expand, and we could easily integrate with others. So even though this is going to be less interesting work for the IT guys, it's going to also remove a lot of the hassle. So what now? What have Canal Digital done to try to move this forward? So we have actually, in the good old way, we have written a letter, distributed over email though, to the partners that we find it natural to cooperate with. So the distributors in Norway, some of the Swedish distributors, the broadcasters in Norway, some of the Swedish broadcasters, to invite them to a cooperation to actually get this moving. And it's not so that Canal Digital would need to be in the driving seat for this. We also state that if you have something today that is working, we will be more than happy to use whatever you have, and we can park what we have in order to get this moving. And I think that once we start, for instance, with the adaptive bitrate transcoding, once we have 2-3 companies doing it together, it will autocomplete because every other scenario will be absolutely ridiculous.